So Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to be running at minimum 30 frames per second on Xbox Series X, and people are apparently pissed off about that. Welcome back, my friends, to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about, well, what I just mentioned, and the whole controversy between resolution versus frame rate, and we got to have like 144 FPS in all these games at like 4K resolution, and I don't know. It's a little bit problematic. People are getting a little bit crazy. We're going to get to that in a second, but first, the statement issued to IGN from Ubisoft says Assassin's Creed Valhalla will run at a minimum, that's the key word here, by the way, minimum of 30 FPS. On Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we are committed to offer the best experience to our players by immersing them in the most beautiful worlds and environments we could create, and leveraging not only the graphics enhancements offered by the next generation consoles, but also faster loading times and new architectures, end quote. So, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is apparently going to be 30 FPS, on Xbox Series X. Now, I'm assuming that's going to be 4K, by the way. I'm pretty sure that's going to be 4K because Microsoft did say that their target performance for the console is going to be 4K at 60 FPS, up to 120 FPS, which was, I'm pretty sure, confirmed or at least assumed that would be, 120 FPS would probably be 1080p, maybe 1440 or whatever. But people are losing their minds, man. The comment section is so insanely toxic. It's like a freaking fanboy war. Before I read you guys some of these responses, I do want to say, myself, I don't care. I love games, right? I have a PS4, Xbox One, and a Nintendo Switch. I love games, period. I don't care, like every console, every company has something else and something different to offer. So I love them all for different reasons. Obviously, my primary console this generation is a PS4. The last generation was an Xbox 360. I couldn't give two craps less of whether, I'm a Sony fanboy or I'm a Microsoft fanboy, and that crap's just stupid to me. It's like, who cares, man? Love whatever console you love whatever game you love, whatever company. Who cares, man? We're getting games. You guys should be excited that we're getting amazing games. And then you got the PC Master Race. People are like, yo, PC Master Race can do 4K at like 144 frames per second. It's like, bro, who cares, man? Certain instances, it matters. Certain instances, it doesn't. This is what the comment section has to say. For example, some people were like, next gen. Wow, are we in 2010? Probably the best advertising for PS4 this far. At the bare minimum, LOL. 30 FPS should be a thing of the past, especially with next gen. Whoa, 30 FPS, so next gen. Not. Watch it achieve 60 FPS on PS5 though, even though Xbox is going for all out power. Sony for the win. In 2020, when is 60 FPS going to be the new standard? Giddy bloody computer, mates. Such a disappointment. I don't know what was with all those voices, by the way. I don't know. Anyways, my friends. This is so toxic. Okay, there's a couple things to dissect here, okay? The idea that 30 FPS is so 2010, first of all, is a toxic idea, and I'll explain that more in a second. The idea that this is not next gen because it's 30 FPS as well is also toxic. The whole idea that, like, oh, Sony for the win. You think PS5 is going to run it at 60 FPS when Xbox Series X is running it at 30 FPS? There's no way. Both consoles are going to be running it at 30 FPS. It's not like PS5 for the win. PS5 is going to have, 60 frames per second or 144 frames per second while, Xbox Series X has 30. This game is going to run 30 frames on both consoles, Xbox Series X and PS5. And it's just a very toxic idea. Let me give you guys an example, okay? So movies, I don't know if you guys are aware, but movies run at 24 frames per second. Have you guys ever in your life tried to watch a movie that's meant to be at 24 frames per second? Have you ever watched that in 60 frames per second? Go look it up. There's like 100,000 videos on YouTube that you can look up that shows a comparison of 20 frames versus 60 frames. If you watch any of those movies in 60 frames, it is so horrific. It looks crap. Because 60 frames doesn't work for that kind of thing. And it's the same thing with games. Now, I know games are different, and oftentimes, 60 FPS may be better. A lot of times, especially for multiplayer. But there are times where 30 FPS is best suited for certain games. And honestly, at the end of the day, most people don't even notice it. Most people I guarantee you some of your favorite games, besides multiplayer games, some of your favorite games are probably 30 FPS. Most of the Game of the Year games for the past, I don't know so how many years, have been 30 FPS. Let me give you guys a list for an example. God of War PS4, which people absolutely loved, Game of the Year, incredible game, 30 FPS. Uncharted 4, 30 FPS. The Last of Us 2 was actually 60 FPS, which was maybe just a creative choice, because I don't know, maybe Uncharted 4 couldn't pull it off. Maybe some of these games can't pull it off, but Zelda Breath of the Wild, 30 FPS. Now, yes, I know it's a Nintendo Switch game, and, you know, Nintendo Switch is not as powerful as a console, but 30 FPS worked for that kind of game. GTA 5, which is probably the best-selling game of all time, 30 FPS. Now, sure, on PC, you can increase all the frames for most of these games that are on PC. Red Dead Redemption 2, 30 FPS. The Witcher 3 on PS4 and Xbox One, 30 FPS. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which I think is probably going to be Game of the Year this year, but who knows, 30 FPS. Like, who cares, man? Most of these games on console are 30 FPS. Sure, if you have a PC, you could probably put them at 60 FPS, 120, 144, whatever. You probably could. Doesn't mean they look better. Sometimes, maybe. Other times, I would rather take graphic fidelity over the frame rate. If I'm playing a multiplayer game, I want the frame rate over the graphic fidelity. I want a smoother frame rate. For a good example, Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is 30 FPS on console. Destiny 1 is 30 FPS on console. I've always hated that Destiny is 30 FPS. I love Destiny. I love it to death, but I hate that it's 30 FPS. I played it on console, on PC at 60, and it's way better at 60, because that game is a game, in my opinion, that should be at 60, but obviously they had a hard time hitting 60 on console, you know, due to, hardware limitations. So there are certain games that are better in 60. I'm not saying, oh, 30 FPS, you know, everything should be in 30 FPS. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, if a game is 30 FPS, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. And some games do feel better in 30 FPS because they're more of a cinematic kind of style game. Just like movies are 24 for a reason, because it's just more fitting for kind of a cinematic kind of movie, right? You're not going to have 60 FPS. You watch like a soap opera, like a TV show, you know, soap operas. I don't know if you know what those are, but those are usually 60 FPS because they're meant to feel more like realistic, more lifelike. But a lot of film is 24. And you know, you don't hear people complaining about that. Oh, we need all like 120 frames per second on Avengers Endgame. No, because 24 frames is better for that kind of thing. And I think there's certain times, like I said, like Destiny 2, where 60 frames is better. But there's other times where 30 frames, it's not a big deal. Like I said, some of the best games, I'm sure I've named at least one of your favorite games in that list, you know, God of War for PS4, Uncharted 4, oh, Spider-Man for PS4 as well, which, you know, you would have thought would have been 60 because of, you know, the fluidity of the movement. Maybe that game would have looked better in 60 FPS. I don't know. But the point is that some of, you know, the best-selling games of all time have been in 30 frames per second on console, and people weren't even really complaining about those games. So I guess the point is that the whole idea that, you know, 30 frames is not next gen, it's just a toxic idea, because it's not a bad thing in certain games. I think it's more of a creative choice. It depends. Like I said, it depends on the game. It depends on the application. But what I'm saying is that I don't think it's a good assessment to say like, well, this is not really next gen because, you know, this game's 30 FPS. Maybe the game just will play better 30 FPS. And given, like I said, just because it's a story-based game, cinematic game, doesn't mean 60 FPS wouldn't be better. The Last of Us is a good example. It is 60 FPS, and it looks great, runs great. You know, it's great in 60 FPS. But I guess my point is that, you know, a lot of people are trying to say, like, you know, well, this is not really a leap forward, or you got Sony fanboys saying, like, oh, well, you know, PS5, haha, you know, we win. Who cares, man? Like I said, man, I love games. I hope you guys just love games too. Like, who cares? You know, healthy competition is good between companies, because if you don't have competition, but then, you know, it's not pushing the other one to improve and be better. But like, fanboy wars is just pointless. It's stupid. It's just I don't know, man. It gives me a headache. It's just, I don't understand it. You know, I understand having a preference, but like arguing over it, like, and like to this extent, it's just like, it's beyond me. But I don't know. I just wanted to rant about that really quick. Let me know what you guys think about my thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Like I said, man, some of the greatest selling games of all time have been at 30 on console, and they weren't a bad experience. Many of them are amazing experiences. God of War was super immersive. Breath of the Wild too, man. Like, that was such a great game. Nintendo killed it with that. Red Dead Redemption 2 was like, dude, it was crazy. It was so good. You know, The Witcher 3, you know, like so many games, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, like GTA 5, the best-selling game of all time, is 30 FPS on console, which I guess a lot of people played on PC, but still, I don't know. It's just my thoughts. You know, stop arguing about stupid crap. You know, like I said, they're saying minimum 30 frames per second. It could achieve 60. They're saying minimum is going to be 30. And you know, if it's at 30 and we have like super stunning graphic fidelity in the environments, then I don't personally, I don't care. I don't know if you guys care. You can let me know in the comments below, but I wouldn't really care. But I don't know. That's my rant for the day. Thanks for watching. Like I said, let me know if you disagree, agree. If you liked the video, like it. If you hated it, dislike it, whatever. And I'll see you guys very soon in another one. Either way, I'm excited for next gen. Hopefully you guys are too. And we got a lot more gaming content here on the channel for you guys. So see you guys soon in another one. Till then, game on. Stop arguing. Just get along. Okay? Get along.